The hair is like a character of its own. It's so perfect.
Yeah, whoever coiffed that for him did a really
Yeah.
great job. Yeah,
Shout out to our hair team because they really just like they really
I'm
get in
sure
there. It's
they're highly underappreciated on every film set. That's for
oh,
sure.
every film set, but especially this one. I feel like this one really just takes cake.
There you go.
Absolutely. And that's Inde Navarrette joining us today, talking about hair and the makeup crew
Yeah.
being grossly underrated, which I think we could all agree on at any set. They do
Absolutely.
not only are they their work ethic and the job they do, but
Yeah.
Inde, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this.
Mm.
Maybe the best vibe.
I was going to say vibes.
The best.
Oh yeah.
Set.
Yeah.
The
chief vibe officers for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Shout out to my makeup artist, Michaela. We've been with each other for 3 years and she is so phenomenal. I keep getting more and more tattoos, and the more that I come back, she's just like, kidding me. And then she'll just cover them up, and it just but vibe wise, if there's anytime I'm having a bad day, anytime that they come on set, and we start with hair and makeup, like that's how we start our day. So depending on what their vibe is what the vibe of the show will be. And so this season we had Jennifer Lynn as head of Department of Hair, and Trisha Porter, who just had her baby. Congratulations to her.
Congrats. That's amazing.
As our head of makeup. Yeah.
Just an observation. I mean, you're fully in the mix of the crew. I mean, how has it been at season 3? You're playing Sarah Cushing on Superman and Lois.
Mm-hmm.
How is it? What's the vibe like for you? You know, you guys are back, the family vibe, like getting to know everybody. How is it, you know, in season 3, kind of keeping that juice going and keeping that excitement going and, you know, keeping that momentum going for the future of the show as well?
Yeah, I in a weird way, it kind of feels like we're just getting started. It's definitely taken some time to kind of this was the longest break that we've ever had from each other, so kind of getting back into the groove was the easiest things we've ever done. Filming the show is the easiest thing I've ever done. Everybody
It's awesome.
No shit is phenomenal. The guy that plays my dad is like a real life father. I would buy cars in between seasons and he'd be like, Inde, are you taking care of this? Are you taking care of that? Anytime I go over to his house, he checks my oil, my brakes. Like,
wow.
Our set's phenomenal. It's beautiful. And it's the same crew.
Oh, that's great. That's great that they bring everybody back season in, season out. You mentioned that you're talking about with your the makeup artist and covering tattoos, which is something that frequently happens for actors who are playing characters on set, unless, well, a lot of times it's because there's like branding and likeness that you can't show off because there's an artist that's actually performing that tattoo. Is that something, so clearly not something that ever deterred you from getting them? Because I know that a lot of actors are like, you know what, I'm not going to do it because I know that it's something that I have to deal with when I do get on set.
Yeah, no, I definitely did not. And I think that it's very smart to kind of not get tattoos at the very beginning of your career because of the reason of having to cover them up.
Sure.
It hasn't deterred me because I find tattoos, I've grown up with tattoos. My dad has a full piece. My mom has a full back piece. Like I've just been surrounded by tattoos growing up. My cousins have tattoos. Kids in my high school in Fresno are getting tattoos. Like it's just, I've been surrounded by tattoos my entire life. So going into this industry and it being my dream is one thing, but also at the same time having ownership over the fact that if I like a piece of art, I'm gonna get it tattooed on my body. I've gotten a lot better now because I would give stick and pokes to myself. So those kinds of things would definitely, I love doing that because then I'm an artist.
Have you given someone else a tattoo before besides yourself?
In high school, but
what was it? What was it?
That's wild.
It was on my friend Lauren's knee. She gave me my first tattoo and I gave her, it wasn't her first, but we did a smiley face on her knee, like on the side. So anytime she bent it, it turned into it was a funny thing, but yeah.
That is funny. I feel like the kneecap that's a tough place to get it tattooed.
Yeah.
Painful.
Especially it's stick and poke. You're doing it over and over and over again.
Yeah, you guys are in season 3. You're talking about, Superman and Lois with Inde Navarrette. What was your aha moment that this thing was really going to click and, and not just be a one season kind of show? Because again, we talk about other actors all the time. There's so much content out there.
Yeah.
And there's times where stuff's really good. And
Yeah.
it just, you can't, because there's too much out. What was like your aha moment of, okay, we're going to have a season 2 and beyond?
Yeah. I think when I went to, there's YouTube footage of me going to a premiere for Black Phone, and I'm in an all red suit. And it's the first and only time in which I've gone to a premiere and there are people shouting my name from the side. And when I went to go say hi to everybody, because it just was, we were in the pandemic, I don't get to meet fans because we don't do Comic-Con. So to me, it's like I make the show, everybody perceives it outside of social media. I get the love through social media, but not physical. And so hearing my name, it was such like a jarring experience. And then walking over and a man had Superman tattooed on his calf. And it
Not
was
the kneecap.
Not the kneecap. Thank
Okay,
God. Because
Yeah.
Tyler's face being bent back and forth, that would have been interesting. But it definitely, I was like, holy, like this is completely a different, like the love for Superman and for our show is just skyrocketed. And anytime that I do lives, the love that we have whenever me and Alex do lives together or separately, that people will invite people on, and just the excitement that they have, older and younger, but especially it's my favorite when it's the older.
When you were auditioning, originally for this part, were you looking at all of some of the materials of the comics, the other kind of, this IP has been around for a long time, right?
Yeah.
Is this something that you liked as a kid? And also when you were auditioning, did you research even more so into the character to bring that into your audition? Or did you kind of go in and were like, I'm going to be me and I'm going to do my thing and put my own spin on it?
Yeah, I think it was naively the second one because the character wasn't something that was already pre-made.
Right.
So it was kind of my dream of like, oh my God, like I can do whatever I want. I can kind of throw anything to the wall and see if it sticks. And obviously it stuck for 3 years. And it's definitely become like this thing where I didn't have this immense appreciation that I do now for Superman.
Sure.
Because it just was never in my world. Other than growing up with Cartoon Network, I would have like Teen Titans. Like that was my version of DC, or anytime with Batman Begins, whenever Heath Ledger was the Joker, like those types of things. This was when I had my dip of the DC world, but then really being fully thrown into the world of Superman has been such an intense ride. And I wasn't a fan before, not for any lack of feeling, but now it's definitely intensely grown, no bullshit, over a lot of years and a lot of fans and a lot of videos and a lot of people just throwing so many different storylines at me. And it's been neat because our world is so unique. There's no Sarah, there's no, and Jonathan's the one that gets the powers, not Jordan. There isn't, like, you know what I mean? There's no twins.
Yeah.
So it's like completely parallel universe within everything. I love it.
That's crazy because we were talking. There's
big Teen Titans fan here as well, just by the way. But
how can you not be? That would be a major red flag if you weren't.
Yeah, the old one. Not that the new one's horrible. I just love the old one.
At the Go, like the smaller versions of all. Yeah. One, I'm sure it's very cute.
I appreciate the smaller versions of that. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I didn't even think about like how cool it would be to take a universe that's already so burned into people's brains for a good reason,
flush out,
but also kind of have your own kind of creative liberties and spin and like your own kind of creative character. That's a really, because again, like you jump with it. Yeah, you bring up like the the Dark Knight, you bring up all these other Batman. They still in those deviations, from the most part, at least what we're accustomed to, stick within that realm of like, they're so hard and fast with the characters. There's always a Joker. There's you know what I'm saying? So it is cool to have that kind of experience really creating there. I
read somewhere that your mom was the one that really introduced you to film and your love for film. I'd love to know just a little bit about that and kind of some of the actors that you looked up to when you were growing up, and who you are aspiring to be, like just career-wise down the line.
Yeah. What person do you want to act across from?
Oh yeah, that's a great question.
Oh, okay. So my mom was young whenever she had us. She was in her early 20s with me and my older brother, and her mom was a really big Aubrey Hepburn fan.
Yeah.
Black and white film and White Christmas and Funny Girl and just classic Hollywood films. And so whenever I would be young and watching these films, it just was kind of like the music and being stimulated as a kid and kind of just seeing all of these worlds, like it really stuck in my brain that those universes existed where you can sing down a street, where you get the girl, you get the guy, you get to do all of these things. And then I turned 5 and Gladiator was implemented into my life and Moulin Rouge. And because I was so young, I didn't understand the themes of these films. But I just saw like a man fighting for his life and being such a young child and a very emotional child. I was just so drawn in with all of these stories. And again, Gladiator is why do you watch it now? And I'm like, how on earth did I watch this as a child? And be like, yeah, that's me. And it just kind of solidified my love for strength in a human being. And being a 5-year-old little girl thinking that I'm Russell Crowe in the middle of my playground, like it solidified so many things for me. So definitely have to shout out my mom for that. And then my dad for my love of music, as well as my mom. But it just definitely, like, it was just a creative household all around.
That's really cool. And it's also really cool that you were able to admire someone of the opposite sex
completely,
and not have pushback like from your parents, to be in an environment that was nurturing to that. I think I was also shown Gladiator at the age of 5.
I didn't have that takeaway. Yeah. I'm thinking like my takeaway, I was like, oh, this is cool. I was like, this is badass. My takeaway wasn't like, wow,
my godfather showed me that.
Strong and like I resonate with that. I probably watch it again, like to even have like
and like
really
to take it,
way to look at it.
I know we're in the DC universe, but Marvel growing up, and I really looked up to Robert Downey Jr. because my family household is really witty. We're very banter. We go back and forth consistently. And so to have a character like Robert Downey Jr. in our household was just like, I mean, the quips that we would come up with, the things that we would say. And so, like looking up to people of the opposite sex, it was interesting because it was never in my brain like someone, oh, like that's a man. It was just like, you have the same characteristic trait as I do.
Yeah.
So it was like that kind of a thing, which was wonderful. And then whenever it came to women and Fast and Furious was implemented into my life, and I became a cars girl and I became racing cars safely, like those kind of things became just different little pockets of my life that all were drawn from movies and books.
Nice. I've always been a huge Michelle Rodriguez fan. She's top of the top for me.
I hugely based Sarah off of her strength, the way that she takes care of herself. And I see Sarah, that's kind of the route in which Sarah is going. If I were to say that, not that she's like, Sarah's going to be a huge cars girl or racing cars, but just kind of that brute force strength. And even whenever she's in a relationship with Dom, you don't ever see her as submissive. That sort of
like, thing. Take no shit from nobody kind of mentality.
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. We brought up your audition process briefly. I'm just so curious how that went. It's because everyone's is so different. I mean, we've talked to a bunch of actors. I remember Lamorne's a little more and more. His was crazy. His always just thinks it was crazy. So what was your audition process like, and maybe your moment when you found out you got the role, like the relief there? Or excited?
Yeah. So I think I should backtrack a little bit. So my favorite number is 27, and I'll tie that in a second. So we started the audition process with a self-tape, as we all do nowadays, because there's no in-room auditions anymore. And just sent out a self-tape, got another one back, sent another one out, got a call back. And this was the first instance in which I was with 3 other girls there, and I had never done anything where you can physically hear another girl auditioning, and so it can kind of get in your head.
The callback, the third audition was when you were in person.
It was in person. I can't remember the stages of how many more auditions that we had, but it went from video to you're showing up, and there's like we were inside of I think it was like the Warner Brothers area, and it's like a little mini theater. So you're down at the bottom in a chair, and there's like row after row after row after row, and there's a bunch of empty seats, and then there's the showrunners, the casting directors, and a couple other people. And so you just really had to take your mind out of it. And I love people. I love making friends. I love chatting up conversations. And I know that bites me in the ass a lot of times with these in-person auditions, because like you're sitting this lovely person next to you, that you're going to have to gladiate, that you're going to have to fight, that you're going to have to kind of win for yourself. And so at that time I was really into, I think it was astrology. And for whatever reason, I didn't learn anything, but I just had this astrology book and I would write down the traits of an Aries, the traits of a Pisces, and I would have headphones in so I don't hear anything. So then they call me and I do my job. I came out immediately, my headphones were back on because I didn't want to hear, God bless them, like anything that they were doing. And then the last round came, I was the last girl to walk in. And I remember just being really confident in the fact that I knew all my lines. I knew who the character was. I was really proud of myself for even getting this far. I had done 13 Reasons Why beforehand. So I was just proud of myself for doing that and getting here and just how much I had gotten done in such a short amount of time.
Yeah.
And so I'm sitting down and I'm looking up again, like there's just so many empty rows, so many, it's just like a whole bunch of people that are just sitting there and they're like looking at you like this and just waiting. And so you sit there and you do everything you need to do and everything's flowing out and you start getting into the feeling of everything and it feels so nice and beautiful and everything's just like caramel, like it's just wonderful. And then I sit down and I see the casting director next to me just nod his head at another woman. And I remember my butterflies just like going off because I was like, was that about me? Like, did you, okay. And you don't want to say that it's about you, but like,
yeah,
you're like, it's about me. And so I sit down and I remember leaving, calling my agency and just kind of being like, oh my God, like this is what's going on. Cut to a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks later, I hadn't heard anything and I was on a date. And I remember getting a phone call from my agent and my manager. And that's always whenever you have everybody online, you're like, this is it. And I left the date and I remember there was like windows. And so I could see him and I was like, hey, real quick. And so I get on the phone call. And I got it. And I was like really excited. And I had to come back in and pretend like everything was normal because you can't tell anybody.
Right.
Yeah. So for the rest of the day, I was super happy. He was like, what was that phone call?
That's
like,
really,
oh,
that's really sweet of you,
it,
though.
yeah.
No, that's really sweet of you because I actually,
nice.
I was on a date my senior year of high school, and this girl and I, first date, and it was like right around the time when you were getting your admissions back from college.
Oh yeah.
And she got like the email that she had gotten into the university that I wanted to get into. It turned out that I actually got in there too, but
yeah,
she was like, thanks, man. And she was like absolutely ecstatic, just like over the moon, pumped, of course, like rightly so. But she like was saying it out loud to me, and I was like, oh shit, I hope I get in. And it was like on a Friday, so I knew I wasn't getting to get an email until Monday, and I was like, I'm gonna have to go through the entire weekend, without knowing. Needless to say, we didn't go on a second date, but you were very gracious with that.
Oh my God, I can't hide anything on my face, and so I was just like. And he's sitting across from me like, are you okay? I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. What do you want to order? I'm like trying to hide behind the menu. It was the sweetest thing ever. And we went on it was a really good time. Yeah.
Nice. Well, yeah, that's
amazing.
Good luck, Chuck, I guess.
The next girl he goes on a date with who's an actor is gonna get it.
She gets a role. It just passes around Hollywood.
There you go. He's like, why do you ask me on a date? I'm like, dude, like, let's just sit down and have the gelato.
Yeah. Let's just grab a beer real quick.
I just really need a guest star right now. Like, I just really need one. Yeah.
It's a pretty funny sketch. What are some lessons what's the biggest lesson you learned from season 1 to season 3?
Oh, shoot. Whew.
Professionally and maybe about yourself as well.
Yeah. I think that being so young and being in such a serious career, it's really important how you show up for yourself and how you show up for your work and how you show up at work. I think kind of how we were talking about in the very beginning with hair and makeup and how they create the vibe first minute that you step on set. I think learning a lot from Tyler, who plays Superman. He shows up, to set 110% every single day, ready to do his work. Bitsy shows up to set 110%. Emmanuel, Eric, Bole, Dylan, like the experienced actors show up to set who are successful, who are phenomenal in their trade, the workers, the grips, the lights, the DPs, like everybody who is successful in their trade all have one characteristic trait together, which is they show up. And I think in the first 3 seasons in the very beginning, that is something that I didn't understand, because I was like, oh, if I feel like shit today, I'm just going to show up and I feel like shit. But it's such a beautiful thing when you show up to work and it creates this kind of like Pavlov thing within yourself where, okay, I'm happy every single time that I go to set. I'm happy that I get to do this. And it reminds you how blessed and truly grateful you are. So I would say that for the first 3 seasons, and then, or for the first 2 seasons, and then season 3 was already implemented. So we just kind of went nuts and had a lot of fun this season. This season was insane.
Yeah, I mean, you have that, you get past that. Season 1 is like, okay, we have to do a great job.
Yeah.
So we get to season 2. Season 2, we have to, prove that we belong almost in a sense. It's kind of like, even an athlete, in an actor, any kind of field. It's really any kind of field.
Yeah.
Except I don't know about banking or being a doctor, but like in like the fields, like sports and entertainment, we really deal with, freshman go is, okay, here I am, sophomore season or, second season is like, okay, I belong here in the third season. Now I can play. Like I've made my name, like, I can do it. Are you asking like lots of questions and picking up different tidbits from the more seasoned actors?
Oh, absolutely. There's times where, because you have to be gracious with yourself whenever you're learning something. I'm very new to this world. And so being gracious in areas where you don't do the best. And I think Emmanuel Shrieky has been such an angel and such a person that I can go to. She's just an angel. She just all around is really kind with what she says and really caring with the way that she can give you advice. And I think that's really important whenever you're starting out, because there's room for influence. And so whenever you're sitting down across from somebody and you're asking advice, and she was on Entourage. Like that's one of the biggest. Are you kidding me?
We trust me.
We know she's on. It's funny. I told her, I was like, I didn't watch Entourage fully, but I only watched her parts. I skipped through. I was like, oh, Emmanuel, I'm gonna sit for 10 minutes and then I go. And so I just asked her advice. And so I definitely think Emmanuel is somebody that I really turn to in moments where I'm like, I'm not learning my lines as quickly, or I feel like I shouldn't be learning them in the chair the day of, you know what I mean? Like just becoming prepared. And she's just phenomenal whenever it comes to that. Yeah.
Well, especially her character on the show Entourage. She actually started out probably as a recurring guest star and turned into, just imagining like how involved she was in the first season you saw her in, and then what she becomes. And I think so much of that probably had to do with all the little things that you're talking about, right? Like the preparedness, being on set and bringing a good vibe, being a true professional. And then
absolutely,
when they say action, she delivers, right? Like every single time. So those are great people to be watching and learning from and acting across from. You did not answer the acting across from question though. So we got to return.
Oh, I'm glad you brought that back. You guys are good at this. It's almost like you do it for a job. We were working across from. I really love a challenge, because I feel like whenever I was watching something recently, and I don't remember who it said, whether it was Robert De Niro or anybody, but there's no such thing. Whenever you're great, you pull greatness out of somebody else. Or so whenever somebody else is great, you pull greatness out of you. So I think working with somebody who is just so in their own craft. I mean, there's seasoned actors that you can spew out right now and name drop, like Meryl Streep, Robert De Niro, Denzel Washington, Robert Downey Jr. Like you can just spew out a few. But I think somebody that I've been watching for a really long time now is Jessica Chastain, because watching her in Zero Dark 30, if you've ever seen that film, and then somebody who played Celia Foote in The Help. Like they're drastically two very different. There's one that's a CIA agent, and there's one that's like I don't know how to make fried chicken kind of a woman. And she's like this housewife, and she's so fluid and airy. And I think someone who as versatile as that, I really would love to work across from, because I think it would just be flowing and she'd pull out of you. And there's such safety and somebody who knows their craft and is prepared, because there's room for mistakes. And if I want to take a little bit further, I think something that would be so much fun to do is with comedy and New Girl, and the amount of times that like you just have fun with it and whatever comes out. It's just ridiculous. Like something like that. Like a complete like the show The League that was on FX for a long time was completely improvised. They had, I think, like story beats that were written out.
It's nuts. It's
none
like
of
impressive.
none of the dialogue was written, and so something like that would be like really interesting.
Absolutely.
I mean, the show's obviously no longer running, but someone will make an improv show.
You bring up New Girl. A lot of the people on that set were big improv actors.
I don't doubt it.
Yeah,
it's just beautiful working across somebody who's so quick-minded. Alex Garfin is so quick-minded, and the things that we will do or will say behind scenes, or because the show's very scripted, it's very taken care of, and I love that, because it teaches you to be focused and to make sure that everything is in order. And we would have times for and there's a scene in last night's episode where I'm talking to a monitor on a screen, and I'm like trying to be a smart ass because I'm pretending that it's to order food, and I'm like, can I have this, a big fries, a new mom, and I'm listing off all of these things, and we did multiple takes where like we just improv the stuff that we were saying. So there's moments where you do have things like that, but I definitely want to try it when you're across from somebody and you don't have any dialogue or you're just having fun, which reminds me of things like Supernatural. You know what I mean? Where those kids went for 15 years, and I'm pretty sure half the time they did some stuff.
Yeah. A lot of shows on CW have pretty good staying power, and
yeah, it's crazy.
It's happened a lot. So we'll knock on wood that it continues with Superman and Lois. Trying to think, I just had a question that popped into my head and then I forgot it. But Jessica Chastain, though, who is also, she's currently doing stage acting on Broadway right now.
Yes.
Is that something you'd ever be interested in or have done much of?
I did in school. And I loved it because it was just the preparation and doing things over and over again, to where I would say 95% of the anxiety that comes from this job is just not feeling prepared, which is your lines, which is just the biggest thing, is memorizing front to back. And I feel like when it comes to Broadway or theater acting, you have so much time to prepare for everything that is happening that it just turns into beauty, whenever you finally get to it. That's what you're able to do. And having those improv chops, if things aren't as beautiful or something happens, but with our job kind of showing up and doing scenes out of order, it's a different kind of beauty. It's a different beast. So I would love to get into theater acting.
It's a sprint, not a marathon. And sometimes that marathon aspect of it is kind of nice.
Yeah. I remembered what I was going to ask. Do you watch back every episode?
Oh, that's a good question.
Or just watch back your work in general and critique yourself? Because I know a lot of people are like, okay, I did it. I felt it in the moment. I acted, and now I throw it away and I move on to the next thing. And other people are like, no, I look at my work. I see what I did. I know what I was feeling in the moment. So I'll take that and maybe I'll take it with me and use it, or I'll never go back to it. Like, which way do you work?
Both. I think that it's really important to kind of be honest with yourself and kind of, from a non-judgmental point of view, take care of yourself and see what's going on. And then there's other times where if you feel like it's too much, then set it aside and you can watch it later with a different and more gentle eye. Like, I'll go back and watch the first 2 seasons because I have a way more gentle eye. And I think that like this season, because it's so fresh, because everything's so new, and we have new chemistry this season with our new actor, so it's a little bit more fresh. But I definitely think that I will do both, because I think both are really important. And the second one of like just shrugging it off and kind of being like, I don't want to watch it, I also think that's really beautiful, because then there's nobody really knows me personally. So Sarah's whoever they want it to be. It's their character. Like, this character, I act it, but this is for the audience. And this is for everyone else. This is not for me, kind of a thing, whenever you view it that.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, there's also a level of, when you do it enough, you're aware of it. You can kind of separate as it's going on. Like, we host all the time and interview all the time. Like, I know how it's going, and what's going well and what's not going well as I remember who did I it was Ed. I don't know who's, it had to have been Jamie Foxx. I feel like he's always talking about like this kind of crazy stuff.
Oh, where he brought Ed Sheeran in, and Ed Sheeran lived with him for a while.
Yeah, Ed Sheeran.
Oh,
yeah. No, it's true. You gotta. Did you see that?
With Jamie Foxx, right?
Yeah. Ed Sheeran
was it on Graham Norton?
Maybe.
It was somewhere. Graham Norton's great.
Yeah, it's the best.
Maybe it wasn't Jamie Foxx, but someone was talking about Ed Sheeran. He's Benny Blanco, how he's making music with him one time. And Ed Sheeran goes and does they talk about it. He goes and does the concert, and he comes off and goes, all right, dude, I got it. Like, he wrote a song while he was playing. Yeah. Because he's so in tune with doing and killing it. Yeah. So well rehearsed and so in it and so like cemented that almost his second brain and like his outer body can kind of,
Absolutely. There was a time in our last episode where it's me and Alex, and we're in a scene and we're talking, and I know halfway through that it's not going the way that I want it to. So we'll say, run it back. If that day was very pressed for time, so I'd rather not waste their time with anything and run it back. But there are times where as I'm doing the scene, I'll be putting a fork down a certain way. I'll be rubbing a menu a certain way. I'll be putting the keys in my car a certain way. And in those moments, it's like, I already know the way that we're going to be playing it. There's a time where I have a fire. Well, I have a Firebird in this show. That's my car. And so there's a point where I'm getting into the car and I'm putting the keys in, and I'm driving, but there's a certain way where, whenever you're watching somebody on TV and you know that they're driving and it looks fake, and they're just like this and they're talking and you're like, you would have died about 5.
Right. Like, why don't,
Yeah.
maybe look at the road one time. Yeah. Although in
Yeah.
LA, people don't actually look at the road. So who knows?
No, not at all.
They're always like this the entire
Just
time.
save it for a different time. Yeah. How are you guys doing today? And it's just terrifying. So I remember working the wheel and being like, this is utter trash. This is giving. It's not very cute. So definitely there are moments where it's like, you have to, I don't know, it's kind of like a split brain where your body takes over because you've done it so many times and you could do it again. But then in the back of your brain, you're like, oh, this is what's going on. This is what I'm gonna do next time. You
said something just about like the delineation between you as a person, as an individual, and the character.
Yeah.
I want to ask like your thoughts and opinions on, because there have been plenty of actors who have been in roles where they've really had to make some sort of psychological change.
Yeah.
And sometimes physically as well to match a character that they've been cast in. Is that something that you put forward for yourself, the delineation and the true delineation that you are going to work every single time and this is your job? To protect or preserve some aspect of your mental health? Or how do you feel about that? That's a beautiful question, because I don't think I've ever spoken about this in an interview, but the body image that I wanted to give myself as a 22, 21-year-old filming the show versus playing a 15-year-old, I really took care of that over the 3 years, because I wanted to make sure that I was staying healthy by everything that I was doing, by working out, by taking care of my health, but also at the same time, not going on the super spectrum of like becoming whatever idea I had in my head, which was quote unquote perfect. I wanted to make sure that if I wanted a donut, I had a donut. And if you ask anybody on that set, my chair was filled with stuff. Like Emmanuel and Eric, who play my parents, would come by and be like, parents, and I'm like, Danielle, or sorry, that's my legal name, but like, Indy, you're girl, like you're just. And so I really wanted to make sure that as a 15-year-old, you felt like the freedom to have whatever you wanted minus everything else. And so your body would fluctuate and things would happen. And so just kind of taking care of that way. And also season 1, I had the idea where I would wear really tight bras to make sure that she, we slowly took that off throughout the seasons, just to make sure that her body would develop the same way that a normal 15-year-old would. So just kind of making sure that we took care of that, and that aspect was really important and super behind the scenes. Like that's not anything that we did in any particular order, I guess you would say, but just personally, that's what we took care of. Yeah, I think that's great that you share that, because I imagine that a lot of people just normal TV viewers don't understand the amount of care and thought that is put behind something as simple as costuming, or how a girl's body develops as she grows older. Like maybe in a movie where it's like, okay, the main character is pregnant and then they have their baby, of course, like you would expect that. But in something as simple as this, simple meaning that like nothing is simple about someone growing up, obviously, but like it's not what the show's about, right? The show is about this group of characters and this world. And what people would mostly be like, oh, are they getting the Superman costume right? Yeah. Are the colors of that right? Is the Kryptonian K or whatever correct as it should be? Not thinking about these other small details that make
only
up
one per. It's crazy, because like for that, it's like you bring up the big auditorium from your audition, but that kind of attention to detail is for the person in the back. Yeah, because there's always it's like it's the same like mantra of you have to go your fullest and even go harder when there's less people watching, because you owe it to them for showing up. So like, there could be one person that notices that small detail.
Yeah.
Well,
Just in case. And I mean,
nowadays there's more than one person because the internet, that's what they do.
Now it's a lot bigger.
I mean, they could find anything and anyone. That is
They
remarkable.
do. Oh my God, it's freaky. But yeah, the amount of times that we would be in a fitting where we would be like, oh, this fits my body so beautifully, but this is definitely, we would always categorize it in high school years. You know what I mean? Like, this is like senior Sarah, this is junior Sarah, this is sophomore, like this is we're gonna save this because like this. And our costume designer, Katrina, was so funny. She's like, oh, this fits so lovely. This is so beautiful. Your bum looks so good. Or this looks so good. Or this looks so good. And she's just so positive. And so creating that atmosphere inside of something as vulnerable as getting changed in front of people and being like, oh, this looks good. This doesn't look good. And it was really neat as a human being, because then I started to learn what my sizes were and like what looks good, what colors don't look good. I don't know anything about colors. I don't know anything like what brightens your skin tone, what doesn't brighten your skin tone. Like, little things like that's just so wonderful that you learn from everybody. And again, showing up, like if she wasn't so sweet, I probably wouldn't have had one of the best experiences in costumes.
Yeah. Wow. Full circle.
Do you look at critiques ever? We were just talking about that. It made me think of it, like, or even critiques of the show or critiques of, I'm sure there are positive and negative in both directions. There always are, just the way that, like you're mentioning, the internet works nowadays. Do you spend time in that as like an exercise or just for fun? Yeah, not on purpose. I'm now on TikTok, which is so much fun because I did not do it for the first 2 seasons because I was like, oh, I would just be another actress that's like on TikTok. And now recently I've been having so much fun with it. And the amount of drafts that we have is like, as a group, we created like a little TikTok account ourselves to do funny videos. We didn't keep up on it as much as we should have. But busy shooting a show. Yeah. Busy shooting a show. Yeah. Right. Valid excuse. Yeah. And we'd have, but the critiques that I would see is just in the comments of like, there's a lot of, like, can Sarah just leave Jordan alone? I see that a lot. Can Sarah just not be so mean to Jordan, which I completely understand and understand.
Get it. I wish I could, but they write it down.
But yeah, so I see a little things here and there, but I think that it's important to separate it because again, like this is for them. Like they every critique out there is rightfully their own. And I can only do what's on the paper. So I just understand that critique technically doesn't have anything to do with me. And any other work that I have, they can critique that. And again, it may or may not have anything to do with me as Inde. So it's good to separate the two. Yeah.
Love it. Love it. Love it. All right. We'll do a little bit of a variation because you're in your show right now. We always ask everyone some variation of this last question, but it could be any point, any show, anything. What is your favorite memory from being on set?
Oh, that's a good question. I would say Alex is such a musical genius that I kid you not, I would go to Crafty for 5 minutes and I'd come back and he would have written a new song that he wanted to show me. I'm not kidding. There's a wonderful story of him and Michael going on a trip, and Michael Bishop is our new Jonathan, and them going on a trip, and Michael was like, write me a song, like whether or not he was making a joke, just write me a song. Took a shower, came back, full song. Like this kid is a musical.
So on guitar, piano, he's legit.
So we need to get him in a room with Ed Sheeran so that they can make.
They need to live together.
we could do Ed Sheeran back on Jamie Foxx's couch and Alex like on like a pull out,
just in the back. Like he's just gonna strum.
No, Trundle boys, they can live together.
The little Trundle tracks.
He's gonna get it.
That'd be awesome. Love that. Inde Navarrette, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Absolute pleasure. We're big fan viewers and going forward. So keep doing your thing and we'll be looking out for you.
Show comes out on Tuesday nights, right? And then available on CW on Wednesdays to be streamed. So everybody check it out.
Check it out.